This season has been the best one yet for Kiara, Nieto, and Lauren James. And while their stats are impressive, their journey over the last 19 months is even more remarkable. Prior to the start of the last week of girls' summer basketball camp, the Trojans were playing some pickup games before the campers arrived. It would be in the last game of the day when James's junior season was altered drastically.
And it was a long rebound. I got the ball, immediately wanted to push in transition, so I'm going full speed. I had one defender to beat, and she was backpedaling, and she all of a sudden stopped. I remember it being really, really awkward. It kind of caught me off guard. And to this day, I don't know which direction I was going to make my move. And I think that has a lot to do with, when your brain's not in perfect sync with your body, it's not really a good situation. So when I planted to either make a cut right or cut left, my knee buckled and I went down immediately. And I knew laying on that floor that things were going to change. So
James was helped off the floor and into the athletic training room for further tests on her right knee. An appointment was made for the next day with team physician Dr. Gerald Cooper of Fort Wayne Orthopedics and Optimum Performance Sports. That night, Nieto and other teammates tried to keep James's spirits up.
Just her presence just makes things better, it seems like. So, like I said, having my teammates there really helped. Her and Haley Stratman were we stay in Olson for the summer camp, so they're in my room, and I remember we just kind of talking about stuff, and I remember Haley said, if I could give you my ACL, I would. And I was like, no, you keep your ACL, like you need to play your senior year. So just having them two there was very, very special.
Following the MRI, James returned to campus with her parents to wait for the results. While in line for dinner at the dining commons, James's phone rang and it was Dr. Cooper on the other line. He confirmed the guard's worst fear. She had torn the ACL in her right knee.
But thankfully, and this was just another form of evidence that God's hand was in it throughout the whole thing, that there was no other structural damage other than a bone bruise. So it was just my ACL, no meniscus, no any of the other ligaments. So we found out, and we immediately started thinking about, okay, when can I get in and get surgery? What are the next steps? And my parents, especially my mom, did a lot of research on, because there's different forms of ACL surgery that you can do, which one would be best for me. So it was just, let's take the next step. And I remember the first thing my mom said to me was, whatever it is, we're going to take care of it and we're going to get it fixed. So
the news was hard for her teammates to hear as well, but Nieto knew it was vital to let James know her teammates loved her for who she was, even though she would not be able to play in that upcoming season.
I mean, obviously, if you've met LJ, like you said, within 5 minutes, you'll know LJ is a basketball player and ball is life. She'll tell people that she's an athlete student. And just to see her in the gym, how much time she puts into the game, how much she talks about the game. So to have something that you're so passionate about taken away from you, it would be tough. Like, I couldn't imagine. I don't think anyone necessarily loves it as much as she does. And so when it was taken away, it was just important to be there for her, and make her realize that LJ, we love you off the court, and just you are more than a basketball player. You're funny, you're smart, you have so many other abilities, and also the fact that she's a hard worker, and that although this was going to be an obstacle, she was going to get through it.
10 days after the injury, James had surgery to repair her ACL. Her teammates stayed in touch throughout the summer, including Nieto, who surprised James at her home in Seymour, Indiana, a few days after the surgery. When it was time to return to campus in August of 2019, James had to adjust to not being able to participate in preseason conditioning. This forced her to take on the role of cheerleader for her teammates.
LJ loves basketball so much, and her passion for basketball was still in her. So even though she wasn't physically able to be with us on the court, her intensity and passion showed off the court just through her encouragement and pushing us. She just really showed to be a great teammate, as in, like, I'm going to still be here for you guys. I'm just going to do it in this role.
Nieto says she was at the top of her game during those preseason workouts and during the first official practices of the season. But sadly for the then junior, her hopes for an increased role on the team would come crashing down before the first game was even played.
We were doing shell drill, and I took a step and all of a sudden fell to the ground, thinking that someone had stepped on my ankle when I went to take a step. And I tried to get up and I couldn't, and I didn't understand why. And I kind of rolled on my back, and I remember seeing Madison Fisher running beside me, and I was like, Madison, why'd you step on my Achilles? Or like, why'd you step on my ankle? Like, why? And then I remember Patience coming and laying me on my back and putting my foot straight and putting her hand underneath my foot and saying, Key, can you move your foot? And I wasn't looking. I was just staring up at the ceiling at this point, and I was like, yeah.
The problem was Nieto did not move her foot at all. Once inside the athletic training room, she started to understand how bad this injury was.
And Patience kind of came up to me and she was like, Key, you know that pop you kind of felt like someone had stepped on your ankle? She was like, I think you tore your Achilles. And me, I mean, I've never taken anatomy. I've never really looked into injuries. I kind of had no idea what was going on. I was like, okay, like, what's that mean? Is it going to be 1 week, 2 weeks? Like, what's going on? Like, what does tearing my Achilles mean? I've never heard of the concept before. So I was like, what's next?
And then what did she tell? What did she tell you when you asked? When you said, "Well, it's like 1, 2 weeks, maybe a month," and what did she tell you next?
Mm-hmm. Well, just kind of by the look on her face and all that was happening, and just kind of like the serious tone of the room, I had realized that it was going to be a lot longer than that. And doing some research, looking it up, and her telling me that it could be a 12-month process before I could be back to playing basketball. It was tough hearing. That's when it kind of like settled in, like, oh, so this is what had just happened. It's going to take some time and lots of time in order to get back.
2 days later, Nieto got a call from Dr. Cooper confirming that she had torn the Achilles tendon in her left leg. But Nieto was able to stay positive because a certain someone would be with her every step of the way.
And we had always said, I'm like your ride or die, LJ. If you're going down, I'm going down with you. And so just to have her there, to not only have someone who had gone through an similar experience and who could give advice and encouragement, but just someone who could joke around with it as well. We're both on the sidelines joking around, but we're also going to work hard together. Like I said, LJ worked hard, and just to see her passion to get back to the game, like that inspired me to do the same. So I could be there with her for the last season.
A week after her injury, the forward went in for surgery, and afterwards could not put any pressure on her foot for 2 to 3 months. But during that time, Nieto was able to start her rehab.
I would go to Patience, and the first process was basically telling my mind that I could move my foot. Patience would pull my foot down for about 10 seconds. And then I had to like look at it and tell myself like that was me. And then she would push it up and I would do the same. But a lot of like, I guess, mind work to begin with, where Patience was moving my foot and I was trying to train my mind in seeing my foot move.
The 2019-2020 season turned out to be one of the best in school history as the Trojans won their first 22 games of the season, which tied a program record for consecutive wins, and finished the year 30-4. Even though they had the best seats in the house, James and Nieto still got frustrated because they could not be on the court contributing to the team's success. But both players made sure to not let those negative thoughts consume them.
My faith is what really kept me going, kept me motivated. I genuinely don't know how people go through like an injury like this and without their faith. Like, God's who I put my hope in. And I mean, that's what I had to do, is I had to hope that he's going to turn this around and he's going to make something really good out of it.
Like, I remember a conversation I had with Coach. He was like, Key, there's a reason you're here. There's a reason you're on this team. And although you're not playing this year, like, we still need you. There's a purpose for you on this team. And so just finding that purpose, and whether it was cheering my heart out on the bench, bringing the excitement, or behind the scenes in the locker room, I still had a purpose on this team and I needed to fulfill it.
Even after the COVID-19 pandemic ended TU's season prematurely and sent the student body home, James and Nieto continued to rehab on their own. On May 5th, James was granted her release by Dr. Cooper.
After the appointment, we called my dad, and I immediately started trash talking one-on-one, because I told him that the only way he'd beat me one-on-one is with a bad knee. And now that my knee was good, he wasn't winning. So he's actually the first person I played one-on-one, just because throughout the summer he'd still go to the gym with me and rebound. He's the best rebounder in the world. He probably leads the world in rebounds and assists, just saying. So he's the first person I played on one-on-one.
And did you win?
Did I win? Yes, of course I won. He didn't stand a chance. I was so amped up just to play him.
LJ, I am a journalist. I have to ask the important questions. I can't just assume things. I have to ask these questions.
Yes, I won.
Nieto was given the all-clear by Dr. Cooper on August 24th. After not having contact for almost a year, Nieto played Kayla Kirtley in one-on-one to get back into game shape. Kirtley was coming back from an injury as well.
If anyone would have walked in that gym and watched us play, it would have been interesting, just because the amount of shots we missed and the amount of frustration we had at, why didn't I just do this move? Like, this move was wide open. Why didn't I take you that way? Why did I stop? We were both kind of in a headspace of, okay, we need to work through these frustrations together in order to get back to where we were, because we had taken that time off. And so just being able to play some ugly basketball, honestly, and just, all right, we got to get through this so we can start to practice and get better.
Both James and Nieto have been starters for the Trojans for most of this season. The first home game of the year was even more special for the duo, as they scored the first two baskets of the game, James on a three-pointer and Nieto on a layup. That was assisted by who else but James.
Oh, that was just like the coolest thing, I think. It kind of brought everything full circle, and just so thankful and so blessed that I was playing, that Key was playing, that everyone on the team was healthy. Just a huge, again, answer to prayer. And I mean, there weren't many words to describe it.
James has elected to take her 5th year of eligibility and will play for the Trojans next season, while Nieto will graduate in May and move on to graduate school. Even though they won't be on the court in the future, their bond is one that will last a lifetime. With the Taylor women's basketball team, Rick Johnston, Trojan Sports Network.